The monster that charged in the death is an illegal alien migrant who was led into our country and released into our communities by crooked Joe Biden. He's crooked. Joe Biden will never say Laken Riley's name, but we will say it and we will remember it. We're not going to forget her. It's been just a horrible story that we've had to live with for the last few days.
I think the American people should know just how much combination of risk, work, and dedication there is in trying to get this done. Anyway, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you, HSI. Thank you, ERO. Sir, it's time for remarks. And our briefers, I invite you to our seats, and then we'll escort you this way.
Okay.
All right, folks, so Donald Trump did his planned visit to the border on Thursday where he met with Border Patrol, met with Greg Abbott, and basically laid out his plan to secure the southern border as president. Now, Joe Biden countered that by doing a border visit of his own. And apparently, because we know, right, Joe Biden cares so much about border security that this was apparently only the second time during his entire presidency that he visited the southern border, which, to tell you the truth, is that even his second? Because I don't even remember the first time that he visited the border. You know, maybe it was a while ago, maybe I don't remember. But was that quote unquote first border visit even real? Or did they just say, oh, because he was somewhere that was near the US-Mexico border, that counts as visiting the border? I don't know. But long story short, right? Biden tried to do this thing where he's going to counter Trump's visit to the border by doing his own visit. And I'll give credit where it's due. On paper, and I stress on paper, that is good politics, right? Because you are countering your opponent. You're kind of standing them up by doing your own counter event to show, no, you claim you own this issue, but I actually own this issue. The problem is, folks, that if you're going to do that, you have to outshine your opponent, right? If Donald Trump's going to visit the border and you're going to do your own border visit, then your border visit needs to be better in some way or another than his border visit. But instead, folks, it was the complete opposite, right? Instead, in the process of Biden trying to stand up Trump inexplicably stood up Biden because Trump had one of the actually best optical moments, in my opinion, of this entire campaign cycle so far. He looked very presidential. He was on point, you know, all that stuff. And Joe Biden shows up here waddling about. He sounds totally sleepy in his speech. He looks stupid. And we'll show you. So someone put together this side-by-side video just to give you an idea of the optical contrast between Biden and Trump at the border. And let's not kid ourselves. This is election year for both sides, arguably in some way or another. This was a political visit, right? Both of them are trying to claim, hey, well, I'm the one who's for border security. Now, with that in mind, take a look at Trump versus Biden and just the imagery you see here. Okay, Biden's on the left, Trump's on the right. Here you go. I'm not making this up. That's real video of Biden looking lost and confused on the border, okay? And then there's Trump shaking hands with the National Guard. So you clearly see, right, who commands respect there, who actually seems like they want to be there, or they even know that they exist and are currently there, and then who is just stumbling about, right? And we'll talk about the substance of what each person said here in a second, but I just want to point that out because, again, it is Joe Biden, believe it or not, right? If you watch this and you heard the circumstance, wouldn't you think it was Trump who was trying to outdo Biden here? But no, it was Biden who did this visit to sort of counter Trump. And, just long story short, it did not end up going very well for Joe Biden. Take a look. Here's another video comparing the side-by-side of the two candidates.
Nice weather, beautiful day, but a very dangerous border. We're going to take care of it. Thank you.
Does Joe Biden even know he's alive? I mean, look at this, okay? like, yeah, haha, Biden is senile, you know, but I have seen him in certain mental states where he sort of pulls it together, right? I don't know if they give him drugs, they give him Adderall, whatever, but it's like, this is a big moment right here. The press was watching and you chose to make it that way, because if Trump just did his thing at the border, people would see it as a quasi campaign stop. It is what it is. But now that you have chosen to do this side by side with the other candidate, you know, you're the sitting president here running against your opponent, and your opponent, while not being the sitting president, looks 10 times more presidential than you do. Yeah, safe to say, folks, this visit for Biden was an absolute and complete disaster. And compound the fact, again, you know, I'm going to keep bringing up optics here because again, we will talk about the substance, but the optics are relevant because this all has implications for the election. This is really arguably, in my opinion, what this is about at its core, right? I should also note that Trump's visit, as you'll see here when we play parts of his speech, was actually at the border, right? They actually showed up to Eagle Pass, Texas, right behind the border and did that. Whereas Joe Biden, when he says he visited the border, he didn't actually visit the border, right? He went to some place in Brownsville, Texas, a couple miles up from the border in some random building. So in other words, the guy didn't even visit the border, okay? And so it's just, on so many levels, the whole thing was just a disaster. But just to show you here, again, this is Biden's moment to show everyone says, I'm senile. No, I still got it. Trump is the real guy who doesn't know how to lead. Well, here was him during that speech being caught on a hot mic, literally asking where I am going. Okay, just watch this. Just watch this entire minute and 16 seconds.
Harder. I think the American people should know just how much combination of risk, work, and dedication there is in trying to get this done.
81 million votes, folks.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you, HSI. Thank you, ERO. Sir, it's time for remarks. And our briefers, I invite you to our seats.
The Border Patrol agent or this whatever has to walk up to him and say, okay, thank you. You know, you notice that she's walking up to him, ushering him. He's like rubbing his nose. Look at his face. Like, did he take his meds today? I don't know. But then here you go.
And we'll escort you this way. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank
you, sir.
Thanks.
A native Delawarean. Where are you from? Georgetown, Seaford.
Georgetown, damn, girl. Everybody doesn't understand. Delaware, first time around here.
Freaking.
Where are you from?
I grew up at a little crossroads.
Yeah, this is real. This was today at Huntsville, Texas. Or Brownsville, sorry.
Where am I going? Again, thank you. As my mother would say, please excuse my back. I apologize.
What?
Well, folks.
So, like you see, okay? This is not a random Joe Biden speech. I know a lot of people make fun of, Joe Biden at his random press conference today was totally not alive. No. This was the big moment, right? Today was a big deal. This was the day where he was going to do the side-by-side with Trump and show that he is the real commander-in-chief, the real leader. And again, it just didn't deliver. Okay, with that said, let's very briefly talk about some of the things Joe Biden actually said in his speech. And I find this one to be very funny here. It says, Joe Biden is yapping about climate change while at the border. Okay, so that actually perfectly sums up the Biden presidency here is, border, not a priority, economy, not a priority, but climate change, very much a priority. So here you go. Here's a snippet from his quote unquote border speech.
The idea there's no such thing as climate change. I love that, man. I love some of my Neanderthal friends who still think there's no climate change. Well, my administration is going to keep building on the progress we've made fighting climate crisis, and we're going to help folks rebuild themselves in the wake of these disasters. And we rebuild to the standards that are the up-to-date standards and building codes and the rest.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. President. Okay, so you're probably asking, did he actually talk about the border at all? Well, long story short, he did the predictable thing, which is this line that the Democrats are running on. And I'll be honest, if I'm going to be totally frank, I think Republicans need to do a better job pushing back on, okay, debunking this, because it's not true. But this is where he blames Trump and Republicans for not passing the border bill, right? The same border bill that gives hundreds of millions to Ukraine and doesn't stop, catch, and release and does all this other crap. And again, doesn't really fix the border, doesn't mandate the deportation of illegal immigrants, which, by the way, Joe Biden has the executive authority to do already, but he simply refuses to do that, right? Refuses to use it. But here was basically his message, which is, yes, I'm the sitting president right now, but it's actually the fault of Donald Trump, who was president before me, that the border is not secure almost 4 entire years into my presidency. Okay, here's his message on that front.
Let me end with this. I understand my predecessor is an eagle pass today. So here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together. You know and I know.
It's clearly not bipartisan if it can't pass the other side, is it?
It's the toughest, most efficient, most effective border security bill this country has ever seen. So instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done? Let's remember who the heck we work for. We work for the American people, not the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. We work for the American people.
That's just hilarious. But again, folks, I will reiterate here, okay? In my opinion, Republicans are doing way too much allowing the Democrats to just get away with this, okay? How many Republican senators do you see going on TV constantly explaining why this border bill is bad, which it is, okay? And we've broken that down before, but the border bill is a scam. Okay, the border security bill doesn't actually enforce border security. And meanwhile, Joe Biden, through executive action, has the ability to secure the border. And that's why Republicans are not passing this bill, right? But I think it is important, I will say this, that the GOP make that message clear, because this is what Biden is going to lie and run with in November, saying, well, it's not my fault we don't have border security. It's your fault, you know, even though, of course, the border's been unsecure since basically the start of his presidency, and he hasn't done anything about it. But don't let him get away with those lies, right? You need to push back on it, which is why I think it was good that Greg Abbott here in the speech with Trump actually sort of broke that down. And so we'll play this here and show you this.
Which was an obligatory visit by him. He'd never been to the border. In fact, I don't think he's on the border itself right now. He's in some sanitized location in the Brownsville area, not seeing the razor wire that Texas has put up around Brownsville. And he announced that he was going to Brownsville after it was already known that President Trump was coming to the state of Texas. It just goes to show that Biden does not care about either Texas or the border and what's going on. As a result, you see a disaster. The United States of America is dealing with more deadly consequences than we have in our entire lifetime because of Joe Biden's policies on the border. And it did not have to be this way. As President Trump just talked, there were 4 policies that he put in place that led to the lowest illegal border crossings in about 4 decades. The end of catch and release, the Title 42 policy, the Remain in Mexico policy, and building the border wall. All Joe Biden had to do to secure the border was to keep in place what President Trump put in place in the first place.
Exactly.
But instead, what Joe Biden did, he signed executive orders eliminating all of the effective policies that President Trump put in place. And then Joe Biden did something even worse. Joe Biden lied to America when he told America that he needed Congress to pass laws for him to be able to do something about the border. Because there are 3 laws that Congress has already passed that are on the books right now that Biden could and should enforce. One is a law that requires the Biden administration to deny illegal entry into the United States, like what Texas is doing right here and like what President Trump did.
Exactly. It's that simple. Deny illegal entry into the United States. Which, by the way, if you didn't hear, Biden actually got a victory in court today, because I think it was the Supreme Court, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a federal court, actually ruled in favor of Biden, saying Texas doesn't have the authority to arrest illegal immigrants, which, I think Texas should just keep doing anyway. Let the courts come and enforce it if they want. But that's where the focus of Biden is. If Joe Biden is spending time, trying to sue states for actually securing their own border, then that shows you where, again, their priorities are. And it shows you that they don't want to deport illegal immigrants, which, even when you break down the substance of that border bill, you know what it's missing? It's missing a provision that simply just straight up says, we will deport illegal immigrants. We will deport people for illegal entry into this country. That gets that simple. But,
He's not denying illegal entry. President Biden is aiding and abetting illegal entry.
Exactly.
The second law requires the president's administration to detain anybody who does get here illegally. Biden is not detaining them.
No, they're
releasing them across the entire country. The third law that Congress already has on the books is a law that requires the Biden administration to build border barriers like what Texas has built, like what President Trump has built. And Biden not only is not building any borders, Biden is using every tool that he can to tear down the borders that Texas is putting up in our state. And because what Biden is doing has endangered our country, as President Trump was telling you the stories, not a week goes by without an American either losing their life, being raped or assaulted by somebody that Biden has allowed in our country illegally. The fact of the matter is, because of Joe Biden's policies and the more than 8 million people who have crossed the border, the United States of America is being invaded. And because Joe Biden is not doing his job to step up and secure the border, Texas has invoked the authority provided to us in Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution to declare an invasion and for Texas to defend ourselves from the crimes that are being caused by Joe Biden. Very quickly, here's what Texas is doing.
And on the front of, he brings up the people who are raped or killed by illegal immigrants. I mean, just take a look at Laken Riley. You have a college girl at the University of Georgia who was on her morning run just a couple of days ago, brutally murdered by an illegal immigrant. Will Joe Biden acknowledge this or say anything about this? Of course not. But here's Donald Trump bringing up her, horrible tragedy and trying to challenge Biden to even say the girl's name, which, newsflash, he won't. But take a listen there.
Just 1 week ago, a beautiful 22-year-old nursing student from Georgia was barbarically attacked, almost unrecognizable, while she was out on her morning run. She was a morning run. She was doing keep herself in shape. She was a beautiful young woman. She was a great person, best nursing student there was. I spoke to her parents yesterday. They're incredible people. They're devastated beyond belief. But she was beautiful, just so beautiful in so many ways, and brutally assaulted, horrifically beaten, kidnapped, and savagely murdered. The monster that charging the death is an illegal alien migrant who was led into our country and released into our communities by crooked Joe Biden. He's crooked. I took the name away from Hillary because she's no longer relevant, I guess. She was terrible, but what he is doing is just unbelievable. Joe Biden will never say Laken Riley's name, but we will say it and we will remember it. We're not going to forget her. It's been just a horrible story that we've had to live with for the last few days. It's hard to believe. And her parents are just, they can never be the same.
Exactly. You know what that is? That's leadership. Okay? That's presidential. But Joe Biden's not presidential in any sense of the word. And we just cannot let Biden and the Democrats kind of claim to own this issue, right? Because any normal person looks at the border and says, Biden is president, this is his fault. But you know the spin they're trying to do. They're trying to say, well, no, it's actually Republicans' fault. Yeah, it's only the second time I've ever visited the border, but border security has always been a priority of mine. No, it isn't. No, it isn't, right? And then they try to bring up this border bill and, again, claim that they care about all of this. We cannot let that happen, okay? Cannot let that happen, because we also need to have our own plan, and we also need to explain, no, this is indeed Joe Biden's fault. To close out this video, here is Trump saying in the Hannity town hall just a little bit after the visit to the border, saying, I'm going to immediately deport a lot of people, and I'm going to give local police immunity to turn illegals over to ICE. And you love to see it. See, again, Biden claims, oh, no, actually, I agree on border security. It's the Republicans' fault. Okay, would Joe Biden do this? Absolutely not. If you're not going to deport illegal immigrants, then there is no border security. There is no sovereignty as a country, okay?
Reason, right? Look, we have to deport a lot of people, and they have to start immediately. People don't know that Dwight Eisenhower was a pretty tough president. I never thought of it as that, but 10 years ago, you start reading and you start really seeing. And he was a big deporter, and he would deport tremendous numbers of people, and they'd bring them just to the other side of the border. They'd come back. He'd bring them again. They'd come back. Then he brought them 2,000 miles back, and they didn't come back. We have no choice. And the way you do it is your local police. We have the greatest police. They don't get the respect that they have to get. They are treated so badly. They do something, and they end up...
Right, and again, think about this. What would Biden do if local police started aiding in deportation? He would try to sue the city. Okay, he tried to get it shut down by the federal government. Again, while his own federal government doesn't do anything. Okay, this is the Joe Biden border policy, and I think a lot of the Senate and House Republicans need to do a better job articulating that.
Losing their pension, even if it's a good thing. If they stop crime nowadays, they lose their pension, their family, their house. And we're going to give immunity to police, and we're going to let the police do the job that they have to do. I think it's very important. They understand who these migrants are. They know them by their first name, their last name. They know where they come from. They know everything about. It's going to be the local police are going to turn them over, and we're going to have to move them back to their country.
So you basically get the idea. But yeah, to summarize again, Joe Biden's border visit, a optical disaster, a substantive disaster, once again repeats this lie that it's the Republicans' fault. Not true. We need to debunk that. Whereas Trump looks totally presidential and lays out actual ways to secure the border. Because again, if you don't have deportation of the people who just crossed the border, then you don't have a secure border. Okay, with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. What did you think of the dueling visits yesterday? Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, Alpha Moves Only, God bless. Have a very great day, and peace.